From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us on Morning Line. I'm Aundrea Cline-Thomas, filling in for Nick Barris. It's the holidays, and that can evoke a lot of emotions with people, from pure joy to pure sadness. Maybe it's the stress of having to buy Christmas gifts or holiday gifts, and you don't quite have enough money to make up, or it's getting together with family and having that cause tension, or maybe it's just missing somebody who can't be around because they've passed away, and the holidays really evoke that sense of loss for you. That's what we're talking about today. All of those emotions are very normal during this time of year. We're joined today by John Baker. He's a grief counselor with Alive Hospice. Thank you for being here.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us what you do day to day.
Well, I work as a grief counselor at Alive Hospice. I've been there for 25 years, and during that period of time, I just saw a great need in terms of working in the homes of people and so on, especially during the holidays, to offer them a special kind of service that we offer at the Grief Center at Alive Hospice, the whole issue of holiday grief. So I really try and focus on all the many complications that the holidays bring to a grieving individual.
Talk about that. What is it specifically about the holidays that really kind of brings up these emotions? Well,
the issue of the holidays, of course, is one that really has tremendous expectation for all of us, and part of us certainly looks forward to that. But perhaps as we get a little older, we accumulate all kinds of emotional baggage that comes from all kinds of losses. It doesn't necessarily have to be just through death. It can be through losses of job, just sudden abrupt changes. But especially in regards to losses through death, the issue of how that fits into the holidays is particularly egregious, because the issue of the expectation of happiness, warm family experiences, tremendous issue of ritual and tradition, and then suddenly you have the issue of grief through this kind of a loss, perhaps a very key family member, and people can feel quite adrift, not only in regards to the tradition and rituals, but also just to the tremendous sadness that comes from not having this person around. And also the issue of losses that have occurred during the year or the last 5 years, and suddenly the holidays can take on a very kind of gray area, and people aren't prepared for that because they really know they're expected to be just the opposite.
Yeah, you know, it's the time of year where you're just kind of nostalgic, and you kind of reflect, with it being the end of the year, you kind of reflect on, what have I been through this year, what has happened, what's going on, what do I like, what maybe don't I like? How normal is this?
Well, it's perfectly normal. The threat of kind of melancholiness that is a part of the holidays is something that we tend to struggle with, often feel like we shouldn't be feeling any sadness, we shouldn't be feeling any of that kind of melancholiness, but just the opposite, I believe strongly, is true. The issue is sadness is very much typically, particularly as I said, as we get older, sadness can be a part of the holidays, and to understand that, especially if I've had a recent loss, and when I say recent, I'm referring to not just maybe in the past few weeks or months, but in the last few years. You know, having a recent loss and not being prepared for that, the issue can be that I'm so ill prepared. Most people are, in terms of how do I incorporate, how do I work with this kind of sadness within me and allow it to be part of the whole holiday experience. It's quite possible. If the loss is most recent, meaning maybe during the holidays, which often occurs, but if it's been within the past few weeks, past few months, a person would greatly benefit from creating a plan to get ready in some way, shape, or form, so that they don't wake up during a particular holiday like Thanksgiving or during the Christmas season and suddenly not know what in the world they're supposed to do. That can be very, very difficult and stressful.
Yeah, before we get into that plan, I want to invite people to call us. Tell us what your holidays are like. Tell us what you're going through. That number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Call us. Let's talk. Let's talk about this. You've got an expert here where you can bounce ideas off of. But, you know, we really just want to normalize. You see all of the ads and everybody is smiling and twirling and the lights and everything. And you're not the Grinch if you're feeling like, I just don't like it.
Exactly. You're not the Grinch, and you're being so normal. I think that, you know, of course, our culture and, of course, all around the world now, but, you know, the holiday period begins earlier and earlier, and it's being pushed back further and further. So, of course, we begin to see hints of the holiday season starting around Halloween. And then we get closer and closer to Thanksgiving, and things really, really begin to be quite prominent in retail and so on. So if we thought, you know, we're going to be able to dodge this until we get right into the holidays, it's just not possible. The music begins, and so it's going to be everywhere. So the issue is the more we understand how this is going to affect me, the more we understand about the whole grief issue, and the more we understand how we as an individual are going to respond to that, and our family and our friends, the more we understand that, the better prepared we are going to be to cope with this, in spite of what the culture is saying. You cannot feel sad. You cannot allow this to take over your whole holiday experience. And that message has to be tailored to family, has to be tailored to friends in a way that they understand that what you're going through is very appropriate, and therefore to basically be supportive in what they're experiencing.
Let's talk to Gloria. Gloria, thanks for calling. You're on MorningLine. Did you have a question or a comment?
Well, I was just just wanting to know, how do you know, go through the holidays about your loved one? It's kind of hard to be joyful. I would just, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Gloria. You lost your brother,
Yeah.
from what I understand.
Tomorrow.
Oh, wow. I'm so sorry about that. Let's go ahead and talk about that. Thank you for having the courage to call in. And, you know, a lot of people are feeling that same way right now, too, Gloria. So let's have Mr. Baker talk about that. How do you go? You know, you're feeling it. You're feeling that void right now. Where do you even begin?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I always tell people is you got to expect that you're going to feel it. You know, especially if we have a history of significant losses that we've accumulated. But if it's been just one very primary, very important loss, we have to have a mentality that says, I'm not going to feel as joyful as I would like. Probably not this year. Now, we're only addressing this year, not next year, not 2 years forward. We're addressing this year. My expectation that I'm supposed to be joyful, et cetera, match what's going on around me is not a good one. The issue must be, I have to have some sadness, if not just outright pain. Absolutely. And the more I work with that, and it's difficult to get all the way to accepting it, but the more I can work with that, the better off I'm going to be. So I reduce my expectations. I understand that, okay, I can have some joy, I can do some things, I can, the issue for me anyway is that you stay in control of what you think you can do and what you can't do. You begin to match your expectations, real expectations, reduce your activity, begin to look at what's really important that you try and do if they're young children and so on. But you've got to reduce your expectations. You have to create a plan that's more realistic. And of course, you know, the issue, like with Gloria, the sadness is going to be there. Many issues regarding how long it's been, et cetera, et cetera. The sadness is going to be there, but you can still have some holiday experiences that are going to be perhaps reduced in intensity, but they'll still have a quality about them that says, you know, this is okay.
So kind of what I'm hearing you saying is, like, don't apologize for being sad. Like, don't be apologetic and say, I shouldn't feel this way because it's the holidays.
That's
so
exactly
just
right.
be in your emotions, but also tempering kind of what your expectations are, because, you know, really being at every holiday party that you're invited to might make it worse.
Very much so. Saying yes to things that we have almost an immediate sense of anxiety about. Well, it's okay. This is a trial and error process for this year. So maybe last year, if we had a loss last year during the holidays or near the holidays, they can hardly be remembered because I was in such a fog. I was perhaps in a state of remaining shock. So they really didn't count. So this holiday season, we may feel this is the first. And so the issue must be that we have to have some sense of control, and that comes in small amounts by being able to say, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. But if it doesn't feel good to me, I'm going to make sure that I have an escape plan, and that if I'm there and I feel like I've got to leave here, I need to go back home, that you follow through with that. You make sure that you leave. And if you travel with someone, it's very important to be able to say to this person before you go, look, if I am starting to feel very anxious, very nervous, please promise me that you'll bring me home. So that there's these tiny little hints that I have some control. I can try, and if it works, great. But if not, I need to go back to where I feel safe, which is my home.
Yeah. It's a season of giving, and you also have to give to yourself. You can't forget yourself in that equation and doing, you know, what's necessary for you during this time. We're going to go ahead and take a break, but encouraging you to call like Gloria. Thank you so much for that call. 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We'll be right back.